Please don't ask why I can't be here anymore. I know it's cliche, but this quiet town is just too small. My shoes, I feel, just need to walk away. My soul, a world to see. Watching, waiting, finding where I need to be. Diving, doubting, will I change my mind next week? Changing, holding, I'll never know unless I go. The choice I'm making doesn't mean I love you less when I should come back. Please don't close your eyes on me. You will always be my home. My home now away from home. Watching, waiting, finding where I need to be. Diving, doubting, will I change my mind next week? Changing, holding, I'll never know unless I go. Please don't ask why I can't be here anymore. Watching, waiting, finding where I need to be. Diving, doubting, will I change my mind next week? Changing, holding, I'll never know unless I go. Watching, waiting, diving, doubting, changing, holding.
Yay, man. That is absolutely amazing. That's how we do it right here in Ekse. We give you good live performances. That is, of course, Gregan. That one is titled New Souls, also better known as Silly Expectations. And I want to find out, how did that name come about? Tell us on Twitter, Ekse_live, on Facebook, Ekse Live, Napagu, Instagram, Ekse_live. How do you feel about this song? And of course, how do you feel about that performance? Welcome to Ekse. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is such a beautiful sound,
Thank
beautiful voice. Thank you so much for blessing us with that.
Thanks so much.
Silly Expectations. Why that name?
So, Silly Expectations is, it's actually a lyric from a song that I heard back in my 20s, and it kind of always stuck with me. That's like the lyric just had a lot of meaning for me, and it's always come to mean different things. But I think generally it's just something that's always stayed with me. And when I was doing my solo project, I didn't want to go by my first name and my normal name, because it's actually a bit of a complicated name. So I thought something that's catchy, something that sounds nice, and yeah, something that means something to me. Yeah.
Tell us about Gregan. What introduced you to the music industry, and where did it all begin?
It all began probably when I was a kid. Ever since I could remember as a child, I always wanted to learn how to play the piano. That was like a big thing for me. And I just kept begging my parents, please, 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 I want to learn how to play the piano. But we didn't actually have a piano, so they were like, well, you can't learn if we don't have a piano.
Yeah.
But we've got this old guitar, this old rusted guitar in the cupboard. So I was like, okay, fine, that'll have to do. So when I was about 11 years old, I learned how to play the guitar, and it's just carried on since then.
It's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Doing it. Tell us about this song that you just performed right now. It's your first ever solo project.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So New Souls is a song that I've just released. The full EP is going to be out on Friday. It was a song that I wrote about moving, because I've done a lot of moving in my life, and I've noticed what happens is when you move and when there's changes, it's kind of like a mixed feelings that happens between the place that you were living in and the people that you knew. They feel like when you move, it's like some kind of not an insult to them, but it's like you're kind of dissing their city and where they live, even though they love that place. So it was kind of a love letter to them, saying, listen, I'm moving, but I'm moving for my own spiritual growth and stuff. You know, it's not to say anything about this place. And it also comes to mean different things to me, but generally I think it's about moving, it's about traveling, it's about experiencing the world in different places.
It's actually being written, recorded, mixed and mastered by you. How does it feel like to do all of that on your own?
Well, it was kind of a situation that I was forced into in a way, because I started producing and writing and recording the album while I was in quarantine.
Yeah.
I was overseas for a little bit, and I came back in July, and I had 2 weeks in a quarantine facility. And I was just kind of there with my laptop and a microphone. So I thought, okay, well, let me start myself, and maybe I'll just do it as a demo. And because I've done a little bit of sound work before, and I was just watching tutorials on YouTube and stuff and kind of teaching myself as I went, I just ended up doing every step of the process. And after I'd written the tracks, then I was like, okay, well, I'll mix them. And after I'd mixed them and added all the production in, I was like, well, maybe I should try master them. And then I just kind of like escalated from there.
You said you're currently working on an EP album. You mentioned that earlier on.
Yeah.
Tell us about the sound. What can we expect from the album? What songs, how many songs?
So it's a 6-track EP. It's coming out the 2nd of October on all streaming platforms. It's a mix of songs from old songs and some new songs that I had kicking around, and because it was the first release and the first EP, I just kind of got together a collection of the songs that I liked the most, and they were all just acoustic guitar songs that I sat and recorded acoustically. And then what I decided to do was kind of add up the production value a little bit while I was working on the production of it. So I started adding in some drums, writing some drum tracks, and I was like, okay, well, I'll write some bass, and then I started adding in other instruments, and then there's now suddenly like violin and clarinet and stuff. So that's it's kind of got an acoustic bass, but it's quite a full whole sound, which is I'd like.
Do you have a song that you like in the album that you like? This one is absolutely a personal love letter that I'm like allowing the world into my own space. This song that I feel like it's absolutely.
There's definitely one song on there that was when I'd written it, and after I'd finished it, I was like, this is one of my favorite songs that I've written, because a lot of the times after I've written a song, I kind of immediately fall out of love with it, and then like I don't like it anymore. So a lot of the time I've always like pushed them away. But there's one called I Don't Know on the EP that after I'd recorded it especially, I was like, actually this one I can like, this one's going to be quite good.
What are your music influences, and who do you see yourself working with?
I would say that the influences for me are so varied that I think the one thing that I always go back to with people that influence me in my music is the people close to me, my friends, firstly through music recommendations, through just coming to watch shows and stuff like that. When they suggest artists, and when I go and watch my friends who are artists play, I find that more inspiring. Because the artists that I listen to are so varied, and like there's so many different influences, but I end up stealing a little bit from everything I hear. So I think the recommendations that I get from my friends are key.
You were part of various groups, and you've decided to go solo. I want to touch on that. What made you decide that, nah, no more groups right now, I just want to be Beyonce?
So I've worked in a couple groups before, from 2010 through to about 2016. And it's difficult to be in bands. I was talking to someone about this the other night, because you've got a group of people that firstly you've got to get together weekly at least to rehearse, and then you've got to organize gigs, and then someone moves and you've got to try and find someone to fill that space, and it becomes it's a great process. I love writing in
Yeah.
bands and working in groups, but it does get a bit tedious and a little bit difficult. And I always thought with my own personal songs that I wrote, it's just a lot easier to kind of have it to yourself and sit and produce it and not have to worry about if someone's going to move, if someone falls pregnant, if, you know, so it just, yeah, it's a more difficult writing process, I would say, than working in a group. I find like the creative space of working in a group is easier, but producing it, gigging, and doing the rest of it is easier solo. Yeah.
Now that you're solo artist, how's it been like?
Yeah, it's been very interesting actually. Like we did an EP launch the other night, and it was definitely a different experience from playing gigs in bands. Playing gigs in bands, there was a little bit of ease because you can kind of rest the responsibility on other people's shoulders, whereas this was just me by myself with a guitar on the stage. So it was a nervousness that I've never felt before, but it was amazing. It's been amazing to kind of bare my soul to people, which is, been
It's
something.
always good, man, to have amazing musicians come on the show and perform and release their EPs right here. It's an exclusive right here on Ekse. If someone wants to actually support your music career and they would like to actually listen to your music, how do they go about doing that?
So the EP comes out on the 2nd of October on Friday, and it's going to be on all streaming platforms. So whether you're on Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, all the rest of it, it'll all be out there. So mainly all the streaming platforms, whatever you have on your phone, it'll be there. Silly Expectations.
6 months later, 6 months after the lockdown, 6 months since the lockdown actually was introduced because we're still under lockdown regulations. So many musicians are currently releasing singles, are currently releasing albums. How has been the time for you as a musician? You know, not being able to perform, not being able to actually engage with your fans. How has been that time for you?
I think the main thing that's come out of lockdown and quarantine, especially for me, is that it's given a lot of people a lot of time to have a bit of introspection and a lot of time by yourself, not being distracted by a whole lot of other things. And I have noticed with a lot of artists and a lot of artists that I follow and support that everyone's been pretty creative in this time. I think there's been quite a creative swell just because there's been nothing else going on. There's been no distractions of life. People have been staying at home. So the one thing the positive that I've definitely got out of lockdown is that it's given me time to kind of be creative, to produce this EP and kind of work on it, which is, it's been very positive in a way.
Gregan, also known as Silly Expectations, thank you so much. Good luck with an EP that you're absolutely dropping. And I'm sure there's be so many other big projects that you'll be working on, and good luck with your career.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Well, that is, of course, Gregan, also known as Silly Expectations, with his new song titled New Souls, and his EP is absolutely coming out very soon. So look out for him and follow him on his social media platforms and get his music on all music platforms. But right now, we're going to take a quick breather. We'll be right back with more right here on Ekse Now. Thank you.